and medical device. Like medical devices is already such a technical category, then why legal? What is the role of legal compliance in this category? Such a boring topic, but I'll try to make it interesting. Let's have an interesting session. I would like all of you to participate during the session so that the session is not boring. And if any of you can switch on your cameras, that would be good because then we can interact better. And time to time we can interact, and you can share your views, or maybe you can discuss your problems that you are facing, legal problems that you are facing in your startups, right? So the topic is launch without liability. Let's start with it. So let's do an activity first. So while I was working in Tata 1mg, various product used to come for the product listing on our website. So these are three of the products that came to us. One is the ortho slipper, second one is the adult diaper, and third one is the foot support silicone insole, right? So whenever the products used to come to us, the legal department had to check whether the appropriate licenses or the compliances were there, like the businesses were compliant or not, or whether they were having the registrations or licenses. So these were the three interesting categories that came to us while we were onboarding the products. uh, I would like to know, I'm calling this an activity because I would like to know your views on this. Like, what do you think out of the three is a medical device? Any one of you?
You can type in the chat box also.
Okay.
I think
Just,
if I ask all to unmute, there might be a lot of noise
I mean, they
disturbance
maybe
in the
can
background.
they can share their hand, and then we can discuss.
Yes.
Anyone? Hello. Anyone want to share that? What do you think according out of the three? Like, one is the ortho slipper, second one is an adult diaper, and third one is a silicone support, ankle silicone support. So what do you think out of three is a medical device?
Can you just, ma'am, share the screen also?
Okay.
Yeah. We have a hand raise. Okay. Adit, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank
Yeah.
you for this session and this, question. I just think, from my understanding, that a diaper would be, the most probably the closest thing to a medical device because it's how do we say it directly interferes with a human. I think so. So that's probably the most closest thing to a medical device.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you are right. And even matlab, all the participants who are there, even if you do not have a technical or medical justification for it, you can give your opinion. I think your opinion is kind of correct. We can discuss after some of you more if you want to give answers. I think that will make the session interesting. Otherwise, we'll get bored on this legal topic. Yeah,
We have a request.
yeah,
We
you
have
are
a
Hi,
correct.
request from
Yeah,
hi
Tanvi also.
Namita, Bhartiya. I'm from
yeah.
Inches Studio, but I'm not so I don't sit in bias. But looking at these
Okay.
pictures, I would say rather all aren't all three a part of it because each one in its capacity is helping deal with preventing a medical issue. So even if you're wearing a silicone insole, it's because you don't want, you know, uh,
Hmm.
your feet uh,
Right.
to have the whatever pain or
Yeah, yeah, I understand. I understand. Yeah, yeah, we can
or the
discuss that
doctor
after
slippers.
we have some more answers. Then I can just discuss upon this whether all are medical devices or one or two of them are medical devices. I'll discuss it.
Or the ortho
Let's
slippers
have
for that matter, because with age we go hunting for them more
right,
often.
right,
So
We
right.
have two answers from. We have two answers in the chat box also. Tanay
Okay.
has replied that the ortho sleepers and silicon support. And then one of the Manisha has replied none of them are medical devices.
Okay.
And
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, she thinks that none of them are medical devices. Okay.
Tanay also has given a technical reason for the answer. You
Okay.
can check in the chat box also.
Okay, let me discuss then. Manisha thinks that none of them is a medical device. Let me tell all of you that all of these three things are medical devices. There is a reason behind it, why it's a medical device. So first, discussing about the adult diaper. So it is notified by CDSO itself, the authority which deals with the certification of medical devices. It is This is a notified category. This is like notified by CDSO itself that adult diaper is a medical device. And the basic reason for all of these three getting a tag of medical devices, the intended use of the product. See, below these three pictures, I have mentioned the intended use. So, the ortho slippers, the intended use is to provide anatomical support and alignment to the foot and ankle. And for adult diaper, it is intended to containment and absorption of urinary and fecal incontinence in adults. And third one, that is the foot support silicone insole. It assists in the elevation of foot pain and arch pain and heel discomfort. Suppose if all of except adult diapers, since it's already directly notified by CDSO, if the slippers were for general comfort, they were not having this particular intended or therapeutic use, what was not mentioned by the manufacturer for this particular thing, then it will not come under medical device. So the intended use is very important. See, the CDSO releases a list of products from time to time, like the list of medical devices, which and the category also. Like the different categories are given by CDSO and the classes are also mentioned. Depending upon the type of product, classes are mentioned ki whether it will fall under class A, B, C, or D, right? So all of these three are medical devices and it will fall under the class A category. Since it's non-invasive, it's in a non-invasive category and low risk category. That is why it will fall under class A, right? And right, I explained you. Manisha, if you have any queries, like if you don't think that my justification is correct or you want more explanation.
Yeah, it's okay, Namita. I was
Yeah,
just to,
yeah.
see what you have to say.
Yeah, so I hope this must be clear now to everyone, that the intended use of the product is very important. While we are looking whether a particular product is a medical device or not, the intended use becomes very important because the list which is released by CDSO from time to time, it mentions the intended use of the product, and on that basis only it classifies the product on various categories like A, B, C, and D. And moving on, why legal planning cannot be an afterthought in medtech space. See, medical device startups or health tech startups are very different from normal startups. What is the reason? The reason is it is a very highly regulated place, unlike other startups. See, if you're trying to launch a product or if you want to sell a product in the market for drugs also and for medical devices also, you need licenses. Even if you are manufacturing or selling the product in the market. So it's very important for medtech startups to focus on the legal planning of their product. And there are certain liabilities which the medtech startups face in this journey. First one is First one is the regulatory and compliance liability. And third one is the contractual. These are the four liabilities that we are going to discuss, the basic things, and because these all these four topics are very broad, which I will not be able to cover in this 45 to maybe 1 hour period span. So but yes, we'll be discussing on these four important aspects which affects the medtech startups.
Namita, sorry, I just had
Yeah,
to stop you here.
yeah,
I think you can
yeah, yeah.
close your video because there are some bandwidth issues. I think the screen is freezing or there is a lag in the audio. So maybe you can just
Okay,
sh-
okay,
close
okay.
your
I'll do that.
video.
I'll do that.
Yeah, that will improve the bandwidth.
Yeah, yeah, I'll do that. Video. Okay. Now it's better.
Yes.
Moving on, let's first discuss with the liabilities that we saw here, regulatory and compliance liability. So earlier there were only one act for both medical devices and drugs. That was Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940. And after the space was evolving, more and more companies came in manufacturing of the medical devices. So the industry felt a need for a specific regulation. So the main act now remains Drug and Cosmetic Act only, but for medical devices the rules were introduced. Indian Medical Device Rules 2017 was introduced, which are amended by CDSO from time to time. And medical devices are, as I discussed earlier in the above slide, that it is divided into four broad categories, which is A, B, C, and D. So basically, class A is a low risk category. In the examples of which can be bandages, surgical dressings. Class B is a low to moderate risk category, in which our BP monitoring devices, thermometers will come. Class C is a high moderate risk category, which will cover ventilators, bone implants, etc. And Class D is a high risk category, wherein the pacemakers, heart walls, neurostunts are covered. So, we have been given a parameter of classification of medical devices in the these particular rules that we mentioned earlier. The Indian medical device rules mention certain parameters for the classification of medical device. So these parameters are: first, the invasiveness or non-invasiveness of the device, whether it goes into the body or it remains on the surface of skin. Second is the part of body affected. For example, if the device affects the heart or the central nervous system of the body, it will fall under class D. Third is the duration or contact of use of the device. So if suppose the duration is for a period of more than 30 days, like the heart stunts, if a person has blockage in the heart, so stunt is put in the heart to make the blood flow go smooth, right? So that kind of product then will fall under class D category, that is a high risk category. If a device require electronic power to function, it will become a active medical device and it will fall under either class B or class C. And the last parameter is the if it interacts with the internal system or delivers substance absorbed by the body. So these are very technical things, like you will have to go in detail. These are like the broad things that I've discussed, but once you go through the Indian medical device rules, lot of things are mentioned on invasiveness, non-invasiveness, part of the body, duration, if it is less than 30 minutes, more than 30 minutes. A lot of depth is there when you go through the substance on this. Moving on, so there are different kind of licenses required if you are manufacturing, selling, exporting, or importing the products, right? So the list is given there are different kind of applications for each category. If you are importing the medical device, the applications are different. If you are manufacturing the medical device, the applications are different. If you are exporting, the applications are different. But here in the slide, I am discussing about the licenses and registration for the manufacture of class A, B, C, D medical device. So basically, we are discussing the licenses which are required for manufacturing. So, class A medical device, if it is non-sterile and non-measuring. So, non-sterile is does not require sterilization, and non-measuring it does not measure like thermometer and BP device, BP monitoring device. It does not measure. Then no license is required. So this was a CDSO notification which came in 2022, wherein they mentioned that for such devices only registration is required, and you need not obtain a license for it, and only you need to register your product on the online portal of CDSO. Then the second category is class A or class B medical device. Here the application for license is MD3, and if you are manufacturing on loan license basis, then the application will be MD4 to the state licensing authority. This is important. For A and B category, you will apply to the state licensing authority and not the central one, and the licenses are granted by the state licensing authority in MD5 and MD6 form respectively. Class C and Class D medical devices are applied in MD7 form and MD8, which is for loan license. And here for Class C and Class D, we are applying to the central licensing authority. And licenses are granted in MD9 and MD10 respectively. The notification, then one more notification came from the CDSO which mentioned that licenses earlier were valid for a period of particular time, but now they are valid for perpetuity. However, the condition is that you need to pay a license retention fee, and this license retention fee is needs to be paid before the completion of 5 years. And if you do not pay the license retention fee within that time period, then 2% of the license retention fee for every month is charged for a period of 180 days. This becomes very important because if you think that license is perpetual, now I don't need to worry. See, I have got it for perpetuity, but you need to be cautious because you need to repay the license retention fee every 5 years upon the completion, before the completion of every 5 years. And now let's discuss. We have discussed about the applications, certain applications which you file while you are manufacturing the medical devices. Let's discuss certain documents that you require while you are manufacturing the medical devices. So this is not a inclusive list, right? So there may be some other documents as well, but I am discussing the basic or major documents that you require while you are filing your application for license. First is the company details. Who is the manufacturer? From where are you importing? Name of the importer if you are importing the medical device. The device detail, whether it is a generic device or do you have a particular brand name for your device. What is the risk class? As we discussed, there are different risk class for devices. What is the risk class? What is the material that you are using in your device? What is the shelf life? For what period remain it will remain within the expiry? Whether it is sterile, non-sterile, these kind of details, like all the device details are required. The client side where you are manufacturing, the master file of that device, master file, your the manufacturing device, the medical device that you are manufacturing, that particular device master file is required. You need to give an undertaking that you are complying with the quality management system. You need to provide an undertaking that you are complying with the ISO 13485 compliance. And if you are importing, a free sale certificate from country of origin is also required. So as I told you, these are the major documents. There may be certain additional documents as well, where when you are applying on that particular portal, you will be able to see that. And these list of documents are mentioned in the schedule of the medical device rules as well. And obviously, when you are applying for such licenses, you need the help of legal and regulatory professionals, so they will be able to guide you on the documents required at the time you file that particular uh, device. So certain points that we should remember while we are doing the regulatory compliances. So one of the interesting point in Class A devices, there is no prior audit required for the grant of the license or loan license. Like we discussed the forms for the license and loan license category of Class A manufacturer. So on Class A medical device, no prior audit is there. No prior audit of the manufacturing site or the QMS, right? But in the Class B, C, and D medical devices, a prior audit of the manufacturing site is done by the notified body. And these notified bodies list is given under these medical device rules, and it is there are certain list of bodies who are certified as notified body by the CDSO. If the documents along with application are complete for C, D, and medical device, once you are filing C, if you are filing application for C and D medical devices, and if the Central Licensing Authority finds that okay, all your documents are in order, then it also issues an order for inspection of your manufacturing site. And while you are manufacturing your Class C and medical device, it is important that you appoint a technical staff to do the supervision of the manufacturing that is being undertaken. These are the points. These were the points before the. These are the points applicable which are before the applying for the license. And these three points are important while you have obtained the license. First is that you should, if you have got license for your medical device, it's important that you carry out test of the each batch of product which is manufactured prior to its release. Why it is important to conduct test of the product batch? Because similar like drugs, it is important that it complies with the specification, whether the specification that you give, whether you can, if there's an option that you can test it in your laboratory or any other third party laboratory, but it is important to test each batch of product manufactured to ensure the compliance with specification. So compliance with specifications that you have given for your medical device is very important. Next is that you should maintain records of your manufacturing and sales, because the medical device manufacturer device officer can inspect your records anytime. So you should maintain the records of your either if you are manufacturing the medical devices, or if you are into the sale of medical devices, you should maintain proper records of manufacturing as well as the sale records of your medical device. So CDSO has made the adherence of ISO 13885 mandatory for medical device manufacturers. And this is to ensure the safety and consistent quality of the medical devices. See, medical devices is such broad in nature because it's not only domestic in nature. You can, if you want, if you have plans to export your products in future, so there is a global scope as well for medical devices. So that is why adherence to ISO standards is also very important. So adherence to ISO 13845 is mandatory if you are manufacturing the medical devices. and penalty if you do not adhere to the regulatory compliances that we discussed, or if you are manufacturing a spurious or adulterated medical device, then the penalty can be an imprisonment which is not less than 10 years and which may extend up to life imprisonment, and a fine which may not be less than 10 lakh or three times of the value of drugs confiscated. Here, drugs may be replicated with devices because the main act which regulates the devices is the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. I would like to know if any medtech startup is here and if they have faced any regulatory challenge while they were filing any applications. Anyone? Anyone one would like to share their experiences?
You can raise your hand if you want to speak, or you can also type the question in the chat box. Yeah, if Bhavika has a question.
Hi, Namita, and hi, Vanju.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks a lot
yeah.
for
Hi, Bhavika.
yeah. And actually, I don't have experience with the medical terms and products and all, but I am a technical expert, IT person who develop
Oh,
website and mobile applications. But I
oh,
have worked with the MedTech projects, so digitization of the codes, IEEE, and lots of codes, MIME code and OMIM codes and all. So I'm aware
mhm.
about the all MedTech terms. And
Okay.
recently, we worked on the project that is from WHO, digitizing the PDF, which every 3 to 4 years they release, and so digitization of that PDF we did. So at that time onwards, I am interested in having knowledge about this. So I'm joining this. So I'm having experience in MedTech, so development and fetching codes from using API and that's all.
So you are also doing some encryption of data, maybe data related things like
Yes.
encrypting the data
Yeah,
and
yeah.
anonymizing the data.
Yeah, we do. We are currently working on Gen AI and data analytics, and that is an enterprise level product. And that is for the hospitality management, but it can be worked for the medical medtech also, and for hospitals.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm very happy to listen to your experience that you are so interested in learning about medtech startups. Mm, great to hear your experience.
Okay,
And I think we will deal with your topic. The data privacy will be dealt at last, and I think you'll be more interested in that. Then
yeah, of
it is
course. Yeah.
it is in
We
the
are all
last. It's
yeah,
in
we
the
are
last
already
line.
using agentic AI. So multiple, so we are
Oh,
using Gemini, ChatGPT, and we are very concerned about the security and all. And already we have implemented using LLM models and all.
that's that's great. That's great because it's very important. Like maybe the founders or startups may not be aware. That is why we are keeping this kind of session to make them aware. It's very
Yeah.
important for medtech startups because it affects them in many ways. Like we are discussing now, the regulatory compliances, data privacy is very important. Since the
Yes,
advent
yeah.
of AI, data privacy is very important.
Yeah. That's why there are so many projects we have already done in this medical field,
Yeah.
but we cannot show on our portfolio even because we have signed the NDAs.
Right, right, yes.
That's
Yeah, that part will Bhavika also come in the later slide. Like I'll discuss about the contracts.
yeah,
Then yeah, I can understand your pain.
yeah.
NDAs are very important. NDAs.
Okay.
Any other thing? Anyone would
We have a question from Manisha
yeah.
about software. So how do we classify software under the um,
Yeah.
regulatory
So
category?
yeah, so Manisha, it's a very broad concept that cannot be discussed right now, since see, medical device is a combination of various things. It's a combination of hardware, software, biomedical things. Lot of things are there. Say per se, if I tell you some exclusions, then algorithms and calculations are excluded for patents. So basically, the authority for patents has excluded the algorithms and calculations out of the scope of patent. But if you say medical device, so software can be considered a medical device. But yes, we need to evaluate, like I told you about the different classes we discussed earlier, A, B, C, and D. So we, the legal professional, or maybe the regulatory professional, needs to discuss with you in detail what kind of software it is there, what kind of purpose it is solving, what kind of data is there. So all these things need consideration while we are discussing uh, about whether it's a medical device or not. Yeah, so it's a very there cannot be one short crisp answer for this, but yes, it can be a it can fall under into the medical device category.
Manisha, you want to add anything to that? Mm,
Arpit, can we move on to the next if we do not have any more
yes, please
questions?
go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So let's dive into the IP protection now. We were discussing the IPR liability. So IPR is a very, very important asset for the medtech companies. I would like to know what you guys think. What is IPR? Like, we know about the assets. Like, we consider our house as an asset, mutual funds as an asset, right? So, what do you think is an intellectual property right? And any of you who have applied for trademarks, patents, your experiences? We should keep the session interesting. Yeah, this will become boring if I keep on speaking like a teacher and you guys will listen. Then this becomes a classroom. Then this does not become a discussion.
Anyone who wants to speak up can. Yes, we have somebody. Just hold on. Yes, Rachit, go ahead, please.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening. I'm Rachit. I'm
Yeah,
from
hi, Raj.
Seamless Tech. So we are into developing clothing-based ECG measuring device. So
Oh, interesting.
we have our product and technology patented completely. So with the reference to your question, because IP right now, when we see outside India,
Mhm.
most of the devices or technologies are first patented and then they come into the market. Whereas in India, it is the reverse case. First they come into the
It's
market
reverse
and
case.
yeah.
Mhm.
So our idea, like whenever we have to maybe license or sell or give, because to grow big into a medical device, what I assume is that either you are occupied, either you are taken over by a big company, or you have to grow yourselves. And even if you grow yourselves, then you should have something of your own
Yes,
right,
yes,
IP,
yes,
to
yes,
protect
yes.
your data and
Completely,
everything. Yeah. So
completely,
that is
completely agree with
why
you.
IP plays an important role, and it is an asset for us that where we will have an edge over other technologies, or where we can fight for ourselves for our rights with the companies, or we can demand higher valuation or something like that.
You have explained it so well. Matlab, I can say you have reduced my workload of speaking more now. Because yes, you are totally right. that for companies like you and companies in health tech space, med tech space, IP protection is just not about the intellectual property protection, right? It is like a strategic tool, like you said, for your growth and global impact. If you want to go global, then obviously you should have patent and trademarks in your kitty. Like, you should have trademark because the people recognize you through patent, sorry, so through trademarks. Like, we recognize Pepsi by its logo and the slogan it uses. We recognize Coca-Cola through it and different brands, right? So let's first discuss what is IPR. So IPR is different from the physical assets that we have. It is given for the creative intellect, like the creative mind use. So basically, it is given for inventions, literary, artistic works, like I discussed, symbols, logos, brand names, images, designs, etc. So there are different kind of IPRs which are relevant for medical devices. First one is the trademark, which protects these symbols, designs, and words. It helps to identify your product of one person from the other person. Second is patent. It's very important, like the most important for medtech space. It protects your new novel non-obvious invention which the public does not know. You need to protect it with patent, and it should have a industrial application. The third one is design. Nowadays there are many companies which are manufacturing different kind of devices, and some play on their design. So it's very important. Suppose if a particular machine is of a rectangular shape, and the other manufacturers a device of the same function, but the design is different. So you can play on the design part. Like Apple has gained patent for their designs. The particular feel of the iPhone, it is very different from other phones, right? So they have patented this, their design as well, the shape of that design. Like the I'm talking about the iPhones. So I think you will be able to relate. The fourth category is the copyrights. So copyright is not granted for the idea like patents. It is granted for creative works like software, UI designs, and marketing content. For example, you have a ECG monitoring device, and you are exporting that product into the different market, and in the different territory like maybe Philippines or Canada. Then your copyright material, like the information which is mentioned on the label of the product, like your logo, name, address, and how the color scheme which is used in your leaflet, all that can also be copyrighted. So it's an option. According to me, the most important IPR out of the four relevant for medtech startups are patent and trademarks. So, discussing about the patent, it gives you a right to use your invention for a period of 20 years. So, it's very important to obtain patents for your unique inventions, which is non obvious in nature, like the public does not know of such invention, and there are no prior devices already manufactured by any other manufacturers in the space. And it has an industrial application, maybe diagnostics or any other healthcare or therapeutic. There may be different categories, there may be different industrial applications, like Bhavik told, for the clothing category, right? And patents, the first step while you apply for patent is to check the patentability of the product. So whether your patent is patentable or not. And for that, you need to conduct a comprehensive art search that is done by a legal professional. Right? Whoever will apply for your patents will do a comprehensive prior art search whether your invention is novel or not, and he will look through the technical documents which exist in the patent records, like the persons who may have filed before in the patent space. After trademark, the second most important things for medtech startups is the trademark protection. Trademark is granted for logos, names, and words as well. Like you have given a unique name for your medical device. Suppose say Synsy. Synsy is a different word. Like the trademark registry never gives trademark for the words which are normal and which cannot be differentiated. Like Apple is can be trademark for Apple phones and not the Apple fruit. Understood? So it should not be descriptive. If I'm manufacturing clothes, my brand name should be so cleverly drafted that it should not reflect that I am making clothes. Say Zara, right? So Zara is a brand name, but it does not, if we do not know that it manufacture clothes, we will not know. We know it because it's so popular worldwide that we know Zara because of clothes, but its brand name or trade name does not represent so. That is why it's very important to keep a unique name for your this particular trademark registration. Now let's discuss yeah, now let's discuss a real life example how a medtech company is using leverage is using IP to its leverage. Like Bhavik mentioned, it's in the West. It is very common to first obtain patents, then go to the market. There's a Kuwait-based startup which is producing manufacturing a product scanner which uses AI, and it is called Scanex. So they scanner in Kuwait, and they want nationally. They have applied trademark office, which will help them. So as Bhavik explained, it's very important that you apply patents for your technology and your trade and apply for trademark for your brand names. Because if you do not apply trademark for your brand name, then it can be copied by anyone else in the market, and then you cannot say okay, this product belongs to me, you cannot copy. No, you need to have a trademark registration if you do not want others to copy your brand name, and you need to have your technology patented if you do not want others to copy your technology. So let's discuss some of the biggest IP pitfalls that hurt medtech companies. First one, as discussed earlier, the patentability. Whether a medical device, like Manisha raised a concern, whether software will come in the medical device category. So there's a not a one-word answer for these kind of question. So patentability is a very complex issue, since it's a mix of hardware, software, biotech. It's a very complex issue, and which the startups face, because defining what is patentable and what is not, you need to take help of your legal professional. Second one is which the Bhavis discussed, that they want they have in mind the licensing of their IPRs to generate, to expand their network. So it's very important when you are growing, if you want to grow in not only in the domestic market, but you want to expand your reach in the overseas. It's very important that you leverage the IPR. Suppose if you have got trademarks and patents in your name, but if you are not licensing it to the other parties, you will not be able to expand and grow. And licensing का एक benefit आपको मिलता है, that you will be able to get royalties for the licensing that you are doing of your IPR. Third is, I think जो हम पहले भी डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि कॉन्फिडेंशियल इंफॉर्मेशन को डिस्कस प्रोटेक्ट करना इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Most of the startups do this mistake. Suppose I and my friend are doing a startup, of a medical, we are thinking of a unique medical device which can create history in the healthcare domain. But since I think she's my friend, I will not enter into an NDA with her, thinking, okay, she's my friend, she will not do anything. But see, agreements are made for the worst situation. So you need not disclose your confidential information before the patent filing. Since patent records are government records, anybody can access it. But anybody can access it. Now you have patent in your name. It's no worries. Anybody can see it, no worries, because you have already got patent in your name. But before getting the technology patented, it's very important to enter into NDAs with the parties, with even if with whom you're discussing for collaboration. It's very important to protect your confidential information. Fourth is, suppose I'm a startup, okay, I've got the patent, trademark in my names. Now everything is done, sorted. But what if you do further modifications or improvements in your medical device? Then it becomes important that you file additional patent filings for your improvements and modification as well. Don't think your task is complete. Okay, I have got this. Now I don't need to do any further activity. You need to apply for additional patents for your improvements and modifications as well. And the last is uh, misclassifying misclassifying under the trademark category. Suppose there are different categories, say class 5 for pharmaceuticals, class 10 is for various devices, class 22. So if you are applying trademark yourself, you may apply it in the wrong category. So it's always important that you discuss this with a legal professional, that your trademark should be applied in the right class category. So the most uh, the startups make this mistake of make filing the trademark in a wrong category, and that leads to rejection, right? And this will increase the time period of your going into the market. Now we have discussed about the regulatory and part and the IP part. Now let's discuss why contracts are important. uh, if one or two of you maybe want to say, I want to know of your opinion, that if emails are suffice or there is a need to enter contract for business arrangement, why it's important according to you? Anyone would like to give their answers? Why we need to enter into contracts, why we cannot do a WhatsApp messages and emails? I think they can be suffice. Then why we need to have a contract? Why it's important according to you? Just a general answer, I don't want any technical answers from your end. What do you think generally? And why, if it is not important according to you, what is the reason?
If anyone wants to add, you can just speak. We have a response from Prem Agwane. So he has mentioned that you need to have contracts to agree upon a mutual agreement.
Yeah, you are right. Completely right. Anyone else who thinks contracts are not important, or they are important because of certain things, why they are important?
For legal enforcement of the terms, which is mentioned
Very,
by Pooja Jain.
acha, legal info. Very correct. Pooja, you are very right. Very, very right. So let me explain. I think we have got two answers and they are very correct. That it's very important. I think Indian startups in the West, it's they put a lot of effort on documentation and reviewing everything. But since Indian startups, I will not classify every startup in the same category, but most of the startups are reluctant upon documenting everything, as they think that it will increase the legal cost. Like they will have to spend money on a lawyer. Oh, let me draft a contract with ChatGPT. But let me tell you that okay, AI is there, it can help us, but it cannot replace a lawyer, right? So a lawyer's job is to understand your business transactions and put it on paper and put everything in detail so that you are protected. So I would say the contracts matter because it protects you from liability. The companies, I've worked in Tata 1mg and Jubilant, such big companies. Why do they have in-house legal counsels? They have such big teams of lawyer because they want to be protected from liabilities from everywhere. Like we discuss about the regulatory liability, IPR liability, contract, there are so many liabilities. You get to know of these liabilities once you start doing business. Unless in the start you think, yeah, it's an unnecessary cost, but it is not. Once you do everything properly, then you will understand that's utmost important to do documentation. First, quickly discuss the reasons. First, it helps to clarify ownership of your invention. Talking about medtech startups, it's very important. Your ownership of invention is very important since you have put in so much efforts and times in researching and in developing that particular product. It's very important that you clarify ownership of your product. Contracts help to allocate and minimize liability. As I discussed earlier, it helps to allocate who is responsible for what. Like in WhatsApp messages and emails, we cannot do that. Yes, we can mention, okay, please do this thing, you are liable to pay me this, but you cannot mention everything in detail over WhatsApp or emails. So you need to mention in detail who is liable for what. Third is the protection of confidential information, which is of utmost important to health tech startups because they deal with the sensitive health personal information of individuals. Fourth is to avoid operational disputes. Like I mentioned earlier, agreements are made for worst case scenarios, and contracts help you save it, है ना? uh, Even if your dispute does not go to the court, say Sun Pharma entered into contract with Akums, but there is a dispute upon the delivery timelines. उन्होंने the Akums did not deliver the product on time to Sun Pharma. Then they can say, okay, please see the agreement that we entered, you had to deliver the product within 4 weeks. So it becomes once you put everything in writing and in detail, it becomes obligatory on the other party to fulfill those obligations. And coming to the obligation, the next point is setting roles and responsibility. So once you enter into an agreement can be a bi-party agreement, three parties, four parties. So each party have different roles and responsibility. In a manufacturing and selling agreement, the one party may be manufacturing, the other party may be buying the product and selling it in the different territories. So every party has different roles and responsibility. And agreement helps you set those roles and responsibility. The next point is it helps you secure timely payment. For example, suppose you are exporting your medical device in Philippines, say. So you would want 100% advance payment, right? Uh, if you do not mention in the contract, say if you accept their standard terms and condition, it can happen that they can mention a condition that they will pay only when they've received the products. But receive of the product goes through many stages. Like once you dispatch the product, it will go through transportation, it can catch fire, it may not be stored properly. So the liability and risk increases, and maybe the product can get damaged, and then the buyer can say, oh, the product is damaged, now I will not be able to pay you. Then you are in a mess. So it's important to secure your payments, and you can do that through contracts. Let's discuss in what kind of contracts are relevant for Indian medtech startups. So first one is product development agreement. Say if you are developing a product with one or two persons, you are developing a particular medical devices, which is a very new kind of invention. uh, you are co-developing a product, right? So it's and it becomes very important to enter into that particular development agreement. Suppose if you are hiring a third party agency for some kind of development, or you are entering into an agreement with a foreign party for some kind of product development, maybe you can provide the R&D, they will develop the product for you. Such kind of scenarios, you need to have a product development agreement. And second most important and the widely used agreement is non-disclosure agreement. So it's very important that you enter into an NDAs with each person, like your vendors, employees, investor, everyone with whom whomsoever you will disclose your confidential information. You need to have an NDA with them. Third is an IP assignment agreement. Suppose if you decide to sell off your IP, maybe you want to start business in drug space, and you no more want to continue in the medtech, in the medical device category. Then you can, or maybe you have been acquired by a party and you want to sell off those IP, you want to transfer that IP to them. Then you need to have a IP assignment agreement. You need to have the next category is software development agreement. So if you are getting your particular medical device, if it's a software, you are getting a software developed, or it's a hardware device but there is a software in it, and you want to develop that sort of software, then you need to have a software development agreement as well. So there's a clinical trial. So if your medical device requires clinical trial, then you need to have a trial agreement with the CROs who particularly conduct clinical trial for you. It's very important, because in that case you are a sponsor, they are conducting clinical trials on their behalf. And it's in those kind of contracts, it's very important to mention the responsibility. Like, what if a person dies, who is responsible? Suppose we are conducting a clinical trial on human patients, what will happen to that particular patient if something goes wrong? If uh, right, if the device does not suit them, then this kind of agreement becomes important while you are conducting the clinical trial. And the next category is license agreement. So as discussed earlier, if you are expanding into the various territories, and if you want to grow fast, then you need to enter into the IP license agreement, wherein basically license is different from the assignment that we discussed earlier. License is giving right for a particular period of time, maybe right to use only. In assignment you sell off your IP, you say भैया लो खरीद लो आपका हो गया. But in the license you say, okay, you can use it like rent. You use my property, you pay me rent. Likewise in license agreement, you use my IP and give me royalty. So that kind of scenario. The next agreement is quality testing and regulatory services agreement, which you can enter with NABL labs and other consultant who can provide you with the ISO certification and CDSO compliances. Next category is manufacturing and supply agreement, which you need to enter if you are manufacturing the product yourself and supplying it to the third party, or if you are getting the product manufactured by a third party manufacturer. Then it's very important to enter into such kind of agreement, because suppose if a third party is manufacturing product for you, so here it becomes important that you provide him the specification, and he need to comply with those specification. Who will be responsible for the quality of the product? All these things are very important, and that can be captured only in the contracts. And then service agreements with various, like a business requires services of various partners. You will have to hire logistic for deliveries, and sterilization if you want the sterilization service for your device, or if you want to hire SaaS or cloud service providers for your particular device that you are creating, then you need to have service agreements with those particular parties. And if you are into distributing within the same state, or maybe if you are planning to export your product, then you need to have distribution and marketing agreement. I know these are a lot of contracts, but yes, that will depend upon the particular scenario of where your startup is and what you are doing. I tried to explain as fast as possible and as clear as possible in which particular scenarios which agreement will be applicable. But these are the broad categories of contracts which will be applicable to the Indian medtech startups. Now, let's discuss about the major contract pitfalls. Please, everybody, don't sleep. I know this is a very legal thing, technical thing. You must be thinking that why I need to learn this. Matlab, I am not a lawyer. I am not drafting contracts. But please, you are a founder. You may be you may be holding a key position in the organization, right? So it's very important for you to understand what can be the major contract pitfalls, like a general understanding. Please, I don't want to sound technical or very legal in this. Don't get bored. If you get bored, please, you can ask, you can share your experiences, or you can ask me certain questions. uh, but otherwise, I'll start explaining upon these contract pitfalls. The most important is, I would say, the most important in a contract when you are into the medtech space is the product liability and indemnity. Product liability is, what if there's a defect in the medical device, that you have manufactured? Who is responsible? It's very important that you define it properly in the contracts. If it is poorly drafted, then the responsibility may fall on you. For example, if you have contract with you have a distribution agreement with the supplier who's supplying your medical device into the Canada territory, right? His responsibility, talking about the product recall. Suppose if the government authority there says that it does not the product does not meet the standards and needs to be recalled from the market, then who will be responsible for product recall? Since you are not in that territory, the responsibility of distributor is there to inform you, right? So it can only be mentioned in a contract. Once a distributor informs you that the regulations of that particular territory, and he will inform you that this particular notice has come and you need to do this activity in this much days. So these kind of things need to be mentioned. And indemnity is a very legal term. If I try to explain it in simple terms, it would be making the person in the same position like he was before. Suppose if I was having an iPhone, now my iPhone is lost. Please make me in the same category like if I am having my iPhone again and it is not it's not lost. I hope it is. It's a simple example that you guys can understand. So indemnity is like that. So indemnity needs to be mentioned clearly. Who is responsible for what and who will indemnify for what? That needs to be clearly mentioned in the agreement. And second, as we discussed earlier, intellectual property needs to be clearly defined. If it is not defined, it will create problem. If there's an IPR which is owned, it's very important. It's defined in whose name it will be. Like suppose if two parties decide to form a company, that whether the IPR will belong to the name of the company or the particular founder, that is dependent upon the arrangement between the parties. If there are unfavorable payment and credit terms, this also I've discussed earlier, that if you accept standard terms and if there's a payment terms which says we will pay you upon the receipt of the products, then it creates a problem for you, because you don't know about the storage, how the product was stored, how it got spoiled. Then your payment will be halt, right? Coming on to the next, no clear responsibility as to the storage of the product. Who is responsible for storage and up to what extent? While you are manufacturing the products, you are responsible for the storage. If a contract manufacturer is manufacturing a product for you, he is responsible for the storage. And after the product is taken from your premises, then the party who is buying the product from you is responsible. So it's important that you clearly define the storage responsibility with respect to the medical devices. Fourth is poorly defined quality control. You have not defined when will the inspection can be done, when can the can be done, what's the notice period. So there should not be ideally audit before any notice period. So we need to mention in the contracts that what will be the notice period for conducting an audit. So it's very important to mention these things. And last category is very important to define territory. If you are entering into domestic contract, it is important to mention that you are entering into the you are doing it for the territory of India. If you are entering into the different kind of international arrangements, it is important to mention the territory, whichever country you are doing business. It's important to mention that whether there's an exclusive or non-exclusive arrangement, everything needs to be mentioned. And if these things are not mentioned, they only increase your liability. Coming to the last part of the slide, it's why data privacy is important in medtech space. I know we are running out of time. It's already 5:20. Uh, but let's discuss one or two of your views, then we can wrap up fast upon this thing. This is the last part. We discussed about the regulatory compliances, we discussed about the IPR liability, we discussed about the contracts. Now it's the data privacy. What, according to you, why it's very important? Data privacy is very important in this space. Anyone?
Anyone who wants to speak can just raise their hand. I can unmute them.
You can tell me any information that you have in mind. General information. No, I don't need technical answers there. Why do you think it's important? Why we are talking about data privacy in first place?
Yeah, we have Rachit here. Rachit, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, why data privacy is important? Because medical device or a medical domain is something which is a personal domain for anyone, and no person would like to share their data in a public domain. This is with regards to a general person going for a test or someone like that. And when it comes to a corporate or an organization, then in that case, no company will like to breach its data or to share its data to make it public, where any hidden information or any small information can take that company from hero to zero, something like that. So that's why,
Hmm.
in my view, data privacy is important.
You are correct. You are correct. Any other views? Why it's very important in this space, unlike any other space? वैसे तो now it's important in every sphere for every startup. But why particularly this space, health tech space, med tech space?
I think some of the innovators, I think they do have questions, but probably
Mhm.
are a little hesitant to ask, considering that probably they don't want to disclose certain aspects
Okay,
of their invention. So what I'll do
understood.
is let me uh, let me drop in my email and we'll put down Namita's email also, and you can always write
Yeah, I
to
can
her.
always.
So in
Okay,
that case, there is no risk of you losing
understood.
out any sensitive information.
Understood. Okay, now let's discuss. Let me explain you why it's so important. Basically, data privacy becomes very important in this space because of the sensitivity of health information. So, medical devices are developed or manufactured to solve a health problem, and they involve the use of not only medical records, but they may include the genetic information, behavioral information, lifestyle data, many other things can be there, right? And second thing is, if there is a use of personal data, then it has a direct impact on the privacy of an individual. If my data is leaked, then obviously it impacts my privacy. Like, it was my sensitive personal data. How can you just leak the data? So there was a Facebook case also, like, it was a case where they said that they have leaked the data or personal information. So that is why now DPDP Act has come into force, that we'll discuss later in the slide. But yes, it impacts the privacy of the individual. And in the health space, it's the patient trust is very important, because it's the devices are manufactured or the drugs are manufactured for patient trust. So the patient trust is very important, and it's important to maintain the ethical standards as well in this space. So that's why it's very important. And also, I would like to highlight that Ministry of Health and Finance has released a health data management policy, which is a guidance document which provides the consent framework, which we'll discuss later in the slides, and talks about the accountability, transparency, consent driven sharing, and the purpose. You need to limit the purpose for which you are collecting the data. And there's one more authority, like Indian Council of Medical Research has also issued certain guidelines, which says that you cannot avoid, you cannot overlook the data privacy. Now it's everywhere. Every government organization is issuing guidelines, policies on this. And DPDP Act has also come, Digital Personal Data Protection Act is also there into force because of this, because the importance is very high. Now, coming on to the next slide, let's discuss what are the current data privacy compliance required. So, see, the Digital Personal Data Protection is into force. It has received the assent of our president, but the sections are not notified yet. Like, they have not come into effect yet, but as and when they will be notified, it will come into effect, and the liability is going to be humongous. So compliance work is going to be a lot in this space. But right now, there are certain compliances under SPDI rules, which we will discuss. Let's talk about the first thing, that is obtaining a written or electronic consent before collecting or processing the sensitive personal information. So, what is sensitive personal information? It can be the passwords, the health condition or medical records of a patient, say test reports of patients, the medical history of patients, biometric data, financial information, their sexual orientation. So, these all will fall under the category of sensitive personal information. And right now, what the general practices I would explain you, that you must have seen tick boxes there, that you put tick. We used to have a tick mark. Okay, I agree to the terms and condition of this website. Okay, you can use my information. Now in DPDP Act, we will discuss later, it needs to be very specific. You cannot take my information for one, two, three, four, five, six purposes. It needs to be very specific. But right now, the checkbox thing will work unless the DPDP the act is notified. Second is the purpose. Earlier also, like right
Sorry to
now
interrupt,
also,
Namita.
yeah,
I think you'll have to rush a bit.
yeah,
We
yeah.
are
Okay, okay,
short of time.
okay,
So
okay.
you can probably,
I'll just rush. Then we need
yeah.
to focus on the purpose of collection. For what purpose we are collecting the information? You also need to provide the grievance redressal information, like the email ID and the name of the person who will deal. What if the information is leaked, who will deal with the grievances? You need to provide that. And privacy policy is a must on your website and application. Third is the purpose limitation. You need to collect the information only for the purpose for which you require it. If you require it to develop the creating a medical device, you need to create only for that, need to use only for that particular purpose. You also have to provide a right to review, correct, and withdraw their consent. Fifth is, if you are sharing the sensitive personal information to a third party, you need to obtain prior written consent of that person. Sixth is, you need to provide access controls, like who is accessing that particular software which contains the information, or which contains the file which contains the information. Only one or two persons should have ideally the access. Encryption should be there, like we discussed earlier with one of the persons who were there. She was mentioning that we encrypt the data. So it's very important that you keep the sensitive personal information in encrypted form so that no one can read it. Suppose if they open the file also, they will not be able to read it, what is there in the file. Maintain audit trails. So it's very important that you maintain a trail of your data, how you are collecting, how you are storing, how you are maintaining it. So there can be audit by a government authority, then you will be able to show that how do you store, maintain your data. Last is data retention. So data retention can only be for the legal purpose necessary. Like discussed earlier, that only keep the information for the purpose necessary and only till the time it is necessary. We don't have much time left. There are, like I told you, when the act, the sections will be notified, all these things will come into force. I will mention one or two important things. First is the withdrawal consent option, that now the person can have the option to withdraw the consent also. They have an option to delete the data. They can request for the deletion of data, or if the purpose is completed, they can say that please delete my data. Now, if there are personal data breaches, they need to be informed to the data protection board, and it also needs to be notified to the person of whom the confidential information was breached. Last, if most probably the health tech companies will come in the significant data fiduciaries list, and they have an additional obligation of doing data protection impact assessment. And they also will have to appoint an independent data auditor for evaluating whether they are complying to the DPDP Act. And monetary compliances can run up to even 250 crores in this scenarios if you violate the data privacy obligations. Last slide is legal roadmap for Indian medtech startups. First is the ideation stage. At this stage, you should use the anonymized data. You should not use the identifiable information while you are developing a device. You should execute NDAs wherever possible. And you should, if you are using academic intellectual property like of an institute like Bionest, then you need to do proper licensing of that IPR. If you are on your prototype stage, then you need to define the risk class correctly. If you define your the risk class wrong, in a wrong manner, then it will, you will go on a wrong regulatory path and it will take a lot of time. You should obtain test license for your import or manufacture in MD30. So test licenses for the batch of the product before it goes into the market. So it is not for a commercial license, it is a test license to check your medical device. And if a clinical investigation is required, it should be filed in form number MD22. And last but not the least, it should you should apply for the provisional patents, the validity of which extend to 1 year. And commercial launch, at the time of commercial launch, you need to apply for the commercial licenses that we discussed above. We discussed for manufacturing, there are different licenses for export, import, and different things. For each thing there is a different license. You need to apply for a commercial license when you are planning to launch your commercial a medical device. And you also need to apply for a non provisional patent with complete specification. So at prototype stage, we discussed for the provisional patent, but at this stage, you should file a non-provisional patent. At this stage, it becomes very important that you execute contracts with the different parties. Maybe they are your distributor, importer, vendor. You need to have contracts in place because they are important part of due diligence. And fourth, as we discussed in the above slides, data privacy is very important. You need to ensure to the data privacy compliances. And last but not the least, once the product is launched in the market, you should do the post-marketing surveillance. That is, any if there's any adverse drug events, then you need to file it in MD41 for the post-marketing surveillance. That is all from my side. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I know I took a lot of time, but I was trying to explain my best I could. But if you want to discuss on a particular thing, you can reach out, as Arpit mentioned. You can reach out to me on my emails. Then I think I will be able to guide you better in a detailed manner. But for this purpose, I tried my best to explain you all the things, like all the risk categories and all things. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Namita. I think what you have mentioned is right. Uh, Many of them may not have questions right now, and a lot of information is there pertaining to this. So, in case if
Right.
anybody has a question, maybe sometime down the line also, just
Yeah.
Namita, if you can just share your email address also in the chat box, so anybody who wants to contact you can reach out to you.
Okay.
I
I'll
have
do
put
that.
my email for Bionest also. I put my email address in case you want to reach out to us. You can write your queries to us also. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you all for attending. If you have any queries with respect to our incubation programs, funding schemes, and our facilities, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Even for any queries that are not related to Bionest, you can always write to us. I can always share the queries with the appropriate team member. Yeah, so we have the email address from Namita also put up in the chat box. Anybody who has questions can reach out to her. So once again, thank you so much, ma'am, for joining.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. It was an amazing session. And I hope that I was able to give some value to the persons present in the webinar. It was a pleasure
Great.
conducting this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for attending and have a great weekend.